get into some fun recruiting talk now. I mean, I'm keeping an eye on Twitter just in case anything else pops. That's what I've been doing after this whole show because we don't know when the next commit could happen. But first, we already talked about Tramel Jones. Actually, I have my phone, not my notes. We already talked about Tramel Jones committing and the momentum he can bring to maybe help us get one of these commits. Let's start with the 5 stars. Obviously, the most fun people to talk about. Let's start with his teammate, Jamie French. When I was watching Tramel Jones' film, obviously the player that was standing out, maybe probably even more than Tramel was French. I mean, really good speed. His good speed, good jump balls. I mean, obviously this is high school talent, and I'm not a talent evaluator, but I mean, when I look at him, he's someone that I want to see on my team.
Yeah, I mean, good size, 6'1", 185. Believe he plays high school basketball too. So like,
yes,
just a tremendous athlete. And I think Sark knows how to find athletes.
He does,
especially on offense.
He honestly does look a lot like someone I'd see playing for Texas.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I was like, man, I can really see this guy playing at Texas. And I mean, who knows if he's going to flip from Texas? Seem like the 2 biggest reasons he would flip to Florida from Texas is because he wants to stay closer to home and like playing in Tramel Jones going to Florida also being your teammate, but also DJ Lagway. He said that, like, what's the biggest reason that Florida is still in it? He said was DJ Lagway. So we got to hope that Lagway does find a way to help us get him to flip. Maybe they got to have like a meeting or something, Lagway can go and have a meeting with him and be like, hey, ooh, I like what you do there. I could see myself hitting you on that fade route for a touchdown. I mean, against Texas in the swamp next year. I mean, how electric would that be?
No, it'd be awesome. And especially because I think receiver, I mean, we'll see exactly how big of a need receiver ends up being, but I think you got to assume you're going to see a little bit of attrition there in the offseason. So, I think getting guys like, if you could get Jamie French and Vernell Brown, like those are 2 guys who are probably going to make an instant impact in some way. I mean, that would be pretty spectacular.
Cannot forget about Vernell Brown, already committed. So it's like, so it kind of feels like it wears off a bit. He is a 5-star though. If Vernell Brown was committing right now, the Gator fans would be going crazy. There'd probably even be some saying extend Billy at that point. But continue on the receivers. Dallas Wilson, Oregon commit. From what I've heard, it's a really weird recruitment with him. I mean, he's maybe a comparison I've heard a lot with him. George Pickens. He's kind of that bully ball wide receiver. There was a clip of him that went around on Twitter of him just absolutely bullying and run blocking, which, hey, with our run game, that's really good for us. And Badger got criticized for his run blocking against Georgia. So getting someone like Dallas Wilson, who isn't afraid to go and make that block, and he's still an elite receiver too.
Yeah, I think he's the highest rated. I think of the 3 5-star, the one that Florida has, and then Jamie French and Dallas Wilson. I think he's the highest rated, I believe, of the 3 that Florida's pursuing. Yeah.
Like 13.
I mean, yeah. So, I mean, would be tremendous. I mean, I'll be honest, like I kind of am less bullish here than I am elsewhere. Like I think if you're going to get one of these really good receivers, it's probably going to be Jamie French. I think that seems to be, I mean, like, I think there is legitimate smoke when it comes to Jamie French. It really does sound like, I think Florida it's probably still, I would say, an uphill battle from what it sounds like, but I think there's very real momentum on Florida's side. I haven't heard that quite as much with Dallas. So we'll see. But I mean, I think the fact that you've got a guy like that, even coming to town this close to the end of the season, I think it says something for sure.
I don't want to get too much into it because this isn't confirmed, but some rumors I've heard Dallas Wilson. It's not necessarily the recruitment, but there's some like personal stuff happening. I can't really get too much into it because also this might not be true. So
I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about for sure. I mean, I don't want to speculate about stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up.
Let's say like that George Pickens comparison is like a pretty well thing that goes around with him. It feels like so. I mean, as a talent, you'd love for him to come to Florida. Let's look at maybe the most likely of the 5 stars. I mean, French seems like a lot of smoke, but Solomon Thomas.
Yeah.
he probably is like he was probably the last thing keeping or Tramel Jones was probably the last thing keeping him committed to FSU. It feels like it's just a matter of time before he decommits from FSU. I think he said he wants to wait to see who they hire, but I mean, I feel like it might be more of an uphill battle for FSU than it is for Florida or LSU. Obviously, we talked about it yesterday a bit. The two teams that he was looking at the most that could flip him is Florida and FSU. Florida and UF. LSU. Oh my goodness, I cannot speak. Sorry. LSU and Florida. And Florida beating LSU on her home turf. Really good sign of it. So, and then I don't know if it's like a money thing. I don't know if he'd go to FSU for money necessarily. Feels like if there's just a money thing, he'd probably be committed to someone like Georgia or like somewhere like Alabama. So that does give me a bit of hope that it might be more of a connection thing.
So. Yeah, I mean, it would be huge if you get Solomon Thomas. I mean, the caliber of interior offensive linemen that you really have, Florida hasn't really been able to get in quite a while. So, I look at it like, all Jacksonville guys, him and Tramel Jones and Jamie French, they're teammates. He plays for Reigns, a different school in Jacksonville, but obviously that connection they all have to each other. I've heard some things with him about, family wanting him a little closer to home. Gainesville is certainly closer to Jacksonville than Tallahassee is.
That is for sure.
Quick. It is very much it's a good receiver name. I mean, it's similar to Dallas Baker, I guess, but it just kind of sounds right.
I just had what I was going to say, and I kind of forgot it right there. I made a joke yesterday about I don't want Austin. I want, because like making a joke at Texas, I don't want Austin. I want Dallas. And I worded it differently, but I made it in front of someone whose name is Austin. And I didn't even think about that. It kind of rubbed off wrong.
Nice.
So, I mean, George, he thinks Solomon is definitely going to be a Gator. I remember what I was going to say. Do you remember who the last 5-star offensive lineman Florida recruited was?
God, please don't tell me it's still Martez Ivey.
It's still Martez Ivey.
God, dude, that's so bad.
It is.
That is so bad, but
we've gotten close.
I knew for a while that was the case. I was hoping there was someone I was forgetting, but nope.
I mean, we've gotten close with guys like Samson Okunalola, who ended up going to Miami, and Francis Mauigoa, who also went to Miami.
And Jordan Seaton, too.
Jordan Seaton, he went to Colorado. And now we talked about it, how it looked like Dion might be leaving Colorado, but now it looks like he's staying. So I assume Seaton's going to stay at Colorado then, too. So,
especially because they're just about to flip Julian Lewis, it looks like.
Well, they might. They also looks like they're going to flip an offensive lineman from USC. But but we can definitely hope that we do finally get one in Solomon. I know Jason Zandamela, who transferred. I mean, he's a freshman this year, so I kind of consider him.
It was like a Grimsley kind of transfer, right?
Yeah, Grimsley
signed. Yeah,
and DeAndre Robinson, who went to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So there's those guys, and Zandamela. I think one of the services had him as a 5-star, so maybe you can count that. But I mean, we look at composite, so that's how I look at composite at least.
Yeah, I agree.
But that maybe the least talked about. I had someone ask, "Wait, did this guy even show up?" Naeem Offord, cornerback, committed to 5-star, committed to Ohio State. It looked like a lot. He was going to flip to Auburn. I'm pretty sure he even got projections to flip to Auburn. But then I'm pretty sure I saw last night someone say that he named Ohio State, Florida, and Oregon as like a final 3 for him, and he's going to make his decision. Which, I mean, when you have someone who's committed to you, say, that's going to be my final 3 I'm going to make a decision on, usually doesn't sound good. Feels like he's just trying to get more money from Ohio State. Very possible. But it seems like he's kind of been shipping himself out to other programs. Like Auburn, their recruiting class might go down a lot from the top 3 spot it was, like us last year. But I wouldn't project him to go to Florida. I haven't seen anything that says he's going to go to Florida.
Yeah.
I just know if we're in that top 3, but when you look at the guy we're facing, Oregon, Phil Knight, he's just going to throw money at the situation. And if it is just like a money thing, I don't really think he's going to be a Gator.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have a ton to add here. I'll just kind of kind of concur that like I haven't heard anything like from everything I've heard. This sounds like a guy that Florida's just not really in a significant position to land. So anything else would kind of surprise me at this point. But I got to respect that they're going for moonshots here at the end of the cycle.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we could get a surprise, and with all the momentum, maybe like if we do flip Solomon and French, I mean, I remember when Tim Tebow committed. We got Brandon Spikes. Oh, I don't remember. I saw clips of it. And they asked Brandon Spikes, why did he commit to Florida? Because, hey, Tim Tebow went there. So, I mean, recruiting's a lot different now than it was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So, 19 years ago. But
for Tebow, 19.
Yeah. But maybe we do get, I want to say lucky, but maybe we do get something happen there. So, the first 4-star we were going to talk about was Jones, but obviously, that already happened. We'll go back to Auburn. Tarvis Dice, 4-star offensive line commit. He would be Napier's third highest rated based on the current rankings. They can obviously change. But he would be the third highest ranked offensive lineman that Florida has brought in under the Napier sale regime. So it would be a nice get for us, especially when you look at the other two. Roger Kearney's moved inside, so not even a tackle. And Fletcher Westfall's a bit more developmental than other guys in his ranking area. So Dice really love to get a guy like him.
Yeah, I mean, I think would be huge because I think we continue to say, like, even though they've actually, I think the offensive line's played pretty well this year, I would still say that recruiting and development along the offensive line has been a weakness of this staff to this point, especially given that it was kind of pitched as a strength going into the whole endeavor. But yeah, I mean, I think, with these Auburn guys they're trying to flip, like, to me, I think it's a pretty simple case they're trying to make, which is like, who's the SEC program with a lame duck coach now? I mean, I think it's really that simple. Like
the opposite of last year.
Yeah. So, I think, it would be a huge get. And I think you got to feel better about a battle with a team like Auburn or even with Solomon Thomas, a team like Florida State, than you do when you're going toe to toe with Ohio State and Oregon.
Mm-hmm. I know Auburn, they had another highly rated 4-star, like top 50 player, like a couple of services time as a 5-star, Jared Smith, getting projections to flip to Ole Miss. Like, that's another highly rated player that they might lose. And like Deuce Knight, 5-star quarterback, who just committed to them, not getting projections to flip to Ole Miss, but a guy who's from Mississippi who might also flip to Ole Miss. I mean, you just got to go and take what you can from this Auburn team. And there's another guy who I didn't even put on our list, Malik Autry. He didn't visit. Also haven't heard anything about. We talked a little bit about him last night, but who's a guy that I wouldn't be shocked if we do see some very late stuff happen with, and he ends up being a Gator at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you're seeing them put the full court press on for so many of these guys. And I mean, you're not going to get them all, obviously, but I think if you could pull, I think Solomon Thomas is probably the 5-star that I would say I feel best about the Gators landing right now. If you could pull him, if you get, lucky with French, and then you land some of these, guys like Tavares Dice or Autry, like, you could salvage probably not a top 10 class. Well, I guess depending on if you get 2 5-stars, maybe, but probably more realistically, probably more like a fringe top 15-ish class.
So I was hearing that the class probably be around the size of 16, but I feel like recruiting has gone. I think I'm leaning it might be actually closer to 20 though. With the success, it probably has had a bit more success than some were expecting. Those who I talked to and everything. So it could. I've heard some people say they think it could get to like near 20. So it would maybe be just outside that top 10, but like a really high average. Yeah. But if you're going to go after the portal, that's kind of what you want.
Which I almost like. I still think you need to do that at like a few key positions like safety and stuff. But I almost think like if you really can retain this core and you can go out here and land some of these 5-stars, like maybe you don't need to be insanely aggressive in the transfer, like Ole Miss level aggressive in the transfer portal. Like maybe you don't need to do that. Like maybe you just need to do that, like really roll out the red carpet for like a couple guys here and there. Like whoever the Caleb Downs of this portal cycle is, do that. You know what I mean?
I was about to say Ohio State, like they went and got Quinshon Judkins and Caleb Downs. I think they also got like another offensive lineman from San Diego State. So they got like 2 real big names and a couple smaller guys to help fill out depth. If we can get some of these 5 stars, that's maybe what we might need to do. Sorry. Maybe go get our Caleb Downs. Probably won't get someone that level, but someone who can fill that role that Ohio State did with him for us. So, I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, obviously.
But again, it's like if you're willing to throw some money around and you don't necessarily have portal needs at 15 different positions, like maybe you can afford to go all in on 1 or 2 like really elite portal guys. And maybe that's the better strategy than, trying to go portal like 15 guys and remake this roster. Because I'm not like, even though I think there's holes, I'm not sure this roster like needs remaking.
No,
I think it needs a boost here and there.
I definitely agree. Next guy we're going to get into just decommitted like 2 weeks ago. The 4-star defensive lineman, Joseph Mbachu. I hope I didn't horribly mispronounce that.
I think that's close.
Yeah, it's close enough. Oh, wow. That was okay. But he took another visit to Florida, decommitted like 2 weeks ago. Had a lot of talk about Auburn and Texas. Obviously, he committed to us once. He obviously had something he liked about Florida. And then that's 2 weeks ago. We weren't really doing the best. But, I mean, now he just saw us. He took a visit, just do really well against LSU, had 7 sacks. He has seen the development on the defensive line. High upside guy. He's another one of those players that has only been playing football for so long. So someone that you can really develop. And if you're getting some of these other defensive linemen, someone that you can let sit on the bench for a year or 2 to become hopefully a great player for Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a guy like this, it's kind of just as simple as like it looked like Billy was guaranteed to get fired, and now he's not.
Yeah.
And that changes things. I mean, guys don't want to sign up for what they think is going to be a sinking ship.
No.
I mean, like whether you think it was a good decision or not, there's a reason Scott Strickland made the statement that he did and made it when he did. It was a signal to recruits. It was a signal to potential assistant coaches because I think we assume there's going to be some staff changes. Yeah, I mean, that's sure, like 100%. All I was saying is that, like, I don't think, like, assuming, money with NIL recruiting portal is a limited resource, like, I would personally rather go get, like, a Jamie French than try to go all in on these transfers for, like, a 1-year rental to just try to win in 25. Like, I think you actually have kind of a decent high school foundation that you're building upon. I don't think you need to, like, turn your back on that.
We absolutely do. So last 2 guys we're going to talk about, both 3 stars. I know everyone's like, oh man, why are we looking at the 3 stars? I do think one of them I'm not so high on. Daniel Pierre-Louis. I think he's probably the most likely to be the next commit, FSU guy. My biggest thing that I'm actually excited about, I mean, I'll take anyone from FSU, So, I mean, their class is now worse than ours, which if you would have told an FSU fan 2 months ago that Florida would have a higher class than you right now, oh my goodness, they'd be. I guess they already are freaking out, but because they're 1-9 record, but they'd be freaking out even more then. So it's like FSU's at an all-time low, really. So Daniel Pierre-Louis, all right, depth, I guess, on the offensive line, but the guy I really like, the one you thought might be the next commit, who still might be. Maybe we did convince them. We've seen players say they're still going to take visits and then still commit. Stephon Shivers. I mean, this is a big kid right here. I mean, he's hit the weight room. That's an understatement, really. I can't pull up the photo on here, but I mean, there's just a photo of him. It's like, I mean, I don't know how you could say no to that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and a guy who's, not the highest rated guy. And I don't like, I'm not here to say like recruiting rankings are meaningless because I don't think that's true, but
no.
I certainly would say I put more credence in who's pursuing you and who has offered you. And, he has offers from teams like Georgia, teams like Auburn. So,
He committed from Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry, he decommitted from Georgia. So, I think that when even if you're barely a top 500 guy, at the end of the day, like if Kirby Smart sees something in you that he likes, the odds are there's probably something pretty good there. I think that's a pretty safe bet to make.
Definitely is. Hopefully throughout the week, we'll be able to break some major recruiting news. I know during some people don't like to say off season. it can get a little bit more boring, but then recruiting is the thing that keeps everyone engaged 24/7. But also during the season, it's nice to have those breaking news. We are 17 days away from signing day, December 4th. I mean, if it's going to turn around, it's going to turn around fast.